This video is going to focus on reading between the lines when it comes to IAE and Invictus, Jump Week, Fleet Week, whatever they want to call it this year. And this is particularly recorded in IAE 2954, aka 2024, at the tail end of 2024. Now, the Sabre is the big surprise. On day 2 of IAE, Aegis Day, the Aegis Sabre was quietly raised from 170 USD to 175 USD. And this created a pretty interesting schism in the community. Some people balked at it and just said, look, it's 5 USD. Who, you know, in the grand scheme of things, who cares? It's a beautiful ship. I'm happy with my ship, or I'm not happy with the ship. It doesn't matter anyway, you know, one or the other. And then there was another group of people, namely the CCU gamers, who said, wait a minute, this 5 USD price jump that's unannounced and directly at this event is a major problem for me, because I'm trying to do this or that with my CCU chains. For those who are unaware, when you CCU chain, you retain the insurance of the previous ship. You also keep the value of that ship. So if you melt, you only get the money you spent and you lose the LTI. By the Sabre being at the 175 price point, it ices you out of the Zeus series, the CL, and the ES, which are both sitting at 175 ship value. It doesn't matter what the war bond is. The ship value is at 175, as is the Vulture, and most importantly, the Retaliator. The Retaliator is a brand new, sexy, modularized ship for 2024, and it will only gain more modules over time. And you can buy those modules in game. So the critical ships that really matter to CIG, I believe, is to keep people from having a 5 USD CCU path from extremely popular ship, the Sabre being around for years, and many people having one, and then suddenly they are able to, for 5 USD, upgrade to an entire Retaliator or one of the 2 brand new Zeus. The CL and the ES are both brand new as well. So they're only a few months old. And these are 3 ships that had a lot of work. The Tally is older, yes, but all the work done to it over its pass and then its modularization, and it's still having existing work, just makes it extremely hard for them to justify, in their eyes, only 5 USD of new money being thrown in, or credit, even worse. So there's a couple other things. Some of the free things in IAE this year is 2954 is that you have to do some very basic steps. You have to do 3 of these tasks, one of which is the tutorial, which no one is going to bother to do. Also, it'll slap you onto Area 18, which is a pain. But just visiting IAE is the most critical one. Just go to IAE and then rent a 0 UAC ship to guarantee it counts. And then there's one last step. You have to pick combat or these other things. So combat is the easy one. Most of you will already get credit for it because it's the initial tracker qualification. And if you've been playing in the past few builds, or heck, build cycles, it won't even be available to you. I got the badge for free. Literally just by going to IAE, I got both. It updates every couple of days, so you can see a progress on this page, and I'll include the link to the page in the description. But there's 2, the final step for me is going to be hauling or industry. I don't recommend hauling because you have to mine and then also sell the ore, and it all has to be credited. Because it's not through a contract, it's not easy to see if the server acknowledged that you actually did it. Whereas for the hauling, you just have to do that specific opportunity for independent cargo hauler and just haul whatever it is, complete the contract, and then you know you're done. You can grab screen grabs if you really want to, if you want to do a petition with support, if like you don't have time to play throughout the rest of IAE and you didn't see the badge pop up after a few days. And you can see that the awards are going to be awarded multiple times into December. And the first awards being on November 27. So I think that this is a very easy thing for people to do, especially with how much they're charging for armor lately. Reward armor sets like this on accounts, and including if you have an alt, something like that, are very, very useful. Particularly if you play in the PTU or ePTU. Being able to have armor sets that you can just throw on and weapons that you can just throw on and then walk out the door. And who cares if you lose it, because it's build to build. You'll literally get it to the next build. It saves you a lot of time to go test those ships you want to test, or go check out those new planets you want to see in Pyro or wherever is the new hotness. So it's recommended. At the very least, it's just a freebie that's nice to have. At best, it helps you more prepared to take on the test servers and the rare occasions you want to go. I also include this little bonus just showing you how easy it is to get to the IAE. If you've never been there before, it is on New Babbage, aka NB, and you literally just go to NBIS, the terminal for New Babbage over on Microtech. You land, and then you go to the location. If you haven't been playing for a very long time and you don't want to bother hailing or don't want to learn to hail, you can go over to the commons, land there like the old days, and go up like it's not the old days. I mean, it came after, but the point is that you can land there, you can go right in the doors where you can spawn the vehicles. You'll usually see a bunch of ships sitting there on the ramp. So, there's a lot of different ways to get there. You take the tram at the base of those locations to IAE, which is right next door to the commons. And there's tons of waypointing from both locations to get you there. Or you just spawn an MB directly, and then you just take it straight out from Aspire Grand. So there's many ways to get back and forth. I think that in general, IAE is kind of giving the health of the community. I'm recording this the morning that the Guardian did not come out. The Mirai and brand new ships did not come out. So for those who are keeping track, the rumor was that it was supposed to have a pair of size 5s, or you trade a single size 5 for a QED that basically disables the enemy ship. So it's kind of like a super interceptor with dual engine Fury, basically, with proper armor and proper shields for its size, and bigger missiles. It's a very interesting ship. I think that people are putting it a little bit of perspective, though, because this ship is going to be out in 4.0, and that's once again back to the topic of this video. There's reading between the lines. They're just holding back a very attractive possible pair of ships, if the rumors are to be believed, for 4.0 launch, which is only going to be weeks away. So right after the major ship sales, there's usually build after build to continue the hype, and these ship sales continue the hype into the next year. So just be mindful of that before you were intending to buy this ship, and now you decide to buy something else, and then weeks after, the actual ship you wanted all along just pops up for sale. So bear that in mind. Or if you're ready to CCU game, be mindful the CCUs apply, because the ship may be cheaper than you expected. Even if it's just 10 USD less or 5 USD less, like we just talked about, it can ice you out of CCU pathways to that ship you wanted. So the best option is to keep your CCUs. Also, as a overtime topic, I have again increased the Endeavor Strategic Reserve. As a reminder, I don't sell these things. I simply have the most Endeavors holds in the game. And for anybody wondering what the heck I'm talking about, first of all, if you don't own a ship, just go buy a ship. But more importantly, if you've already been in the game for a bit and you're looking at long-term holds that are really, really, really cheap, 10 USD, when you go into the ship upgrade section for 10 USD, you can pick up, on misc days, you can pick up an Endeavor from a Starfarer Gemini for 10 USD. If you hit the all ships button on the top left, the radio button there, it will allow you to see the Starfarer Gemini even if you don't own one. And then you can just buy that outright and just sit on it. Forget you have it for a few years. And then when finally that ship gains value, the Endeavor, feel free to come back and thank me. It's probably the easiest thing, and it's cheaper than the set of armor that they're giving away nowadays if you were to buy that outright. Just to give you some perspective about what the cost factors of buying in the store are nowadays. And as a reminder, as a general reminder, things in game cost a lot less than you think, or more than you think, when it comes to in the store. FPS gear is the cheapest things. You can buy a weapon in game for 4K UEC, but they would charge you dollars for it, in USD anyway, in the store. If next comes ground vehicles. Ground vehicles are dirt cheap in the game, but they cost as much as ships, or just under what ships cost, depending on how you value it, depending on how you analyze it, because they can give you LTI on other things. So they have to have a certain cost, even racing bikes and things. And then come the actual ships. When in doubt, ships are more valuable than ground vehicles. it's just how it works, because in game a ship can be millions of UEC starting out versus a ground vehicle that's hundreds of thousands of UEC, even with the changes to the cost so far. Now, military ground vehicles are a special creature, but they still are cheap in the grand compared to like a military ship. So just bear that in the back of your mind. And ships do scale. You know, it's like around 65 million UEC now for an 890 jump, for example. You can absolutely buy one in game. That could absolutely be an org goal for even a small org to grind out to get somebody one of those, or get you and your buddies pitching together to buy a reclaimer. Much more common sense and easy way to make money, to start scaling your money. So just bear that in mind. Each one of these days when these attractive ships pop up, and you're seriously looking at them. This year, the attractive ships, I think, for IAE are still in the works. So we have a large Anvil ship that should be coming up the chain. They keep teasing. And I think they're actually going to release it based on the fact they held back the Guardian for 4.0 launch. I think that kind of gives this a nice pathway. And of course, they're going to continue to sell all the different rare ships at the F5 Wars. I'm going to include in the cards my F5 Wars for 2953/2023, which is absolutely still valid. That in the first way, just to save you the click in case you're not interested in the whole video, if you can get the ship in your cart in the first wave, you're halfway to winning, and you've got a huge leg up on everyone else that doesn't have it in their cart. So the other thing that I recommend is using a world clock, any world clock, but I think one I use is time.is or something like that. You can Google them. Any world clock is useful because the server will have more accurate clock than what's on your phone or what's on your computer. So just bear that in mind. If you have a world clock ready to go and you and you start refreshing at just a second or two before the time period, and you already have it in your cart, you're just refreshing the cart, you're going to do fine. You're gonna process. The last recommendation I have is to be sure that your payment process is already ready to go. So some people make that mistake where they go to pay and then it bounces, and then that gets returned to the pool, and then somebody else gets the ship you're looking for. I say all that just in case you're interested, but again, these ships will be buyable in game, earnable in game, upgradable, even craftable in game, as has been confirmed from this year's CitizenCon. So be sure to do some soul searching beforehand and talk with your org mates. If you're really, close. If you're good buddies with your org mates, or you've been flying together for years in various games and running games together, talk with them and be like, yo, can you be honest with me? What kind of the bigger ships, what do you really got? Because if all of you suddenly say, oh, I've got Polaris and Idris, you don't need 50 of these things. And also, it might give you the opportunity to think about other options that maybe are smaller ships or utility-based ships that are they may not cost as much, but they're just as valuable. A Crucible, for example, would be an awesome hold for an org. Or you go big a different way. Oh, everybody's got blank, so I'll get a hull D. Everybody's got blank, so I'll look at other options that can support this type of ships, or unique niche role ships. Like you only need one Nautilus for an entire org, because you need the ability to be able to deploy mines when it's critically necessary. Say you're deploying your space station in the future, and that leads me to my last one, the Pioneer. Make sure if you really want to spend money, and that you absolutely are up. Carefully look at the other ships coming up. The Pioneer is a dark horse for this entire event. Obviously, it's not launching even for 4.0. They've said it's not going to be even in for the start of construction. But the Lunars obviously are going to be the construction capabilities, like the Starlancer BLD when that's finally in, most likely next year. You're going to have the ability to run that, and then later on you'll have your Pioneer with your beautiful at least 10-year insurance. That's pretty nice, and once again, your org only needs one of those. Heck, maybe just one in a group of orgs, you need one of those because it's a rarity. And you can use a Nautilus to defend the building of a starbase or whatever else you're doing. It's an area denial tool, so being able to hold an area and force multiply is extremely valuable. Whereas if you're just wandering around, doing a fun roam on Friday night, a beer and peanuts type roam, the Nautilus might be useless, right? But if you're trying to build things and you're doing these critical things, or you want to defend them when you're offline, and you only want to log in that alt with the Nautilus every few days to refuel all the mines and rearm them, there you go. These are examples of some of these niching downs. I think that a lot of people, if you really got your heart set on making sure your org is good to go and you're looking to spend money, look at the niches, look at the specialties, look at the utility, and sometimes smaller is a better idea, especially smaller that's going to blow up a lot of times. You know, sending out a Crucible to desperately try to recover an enemy Idris that's been disabled and soft killed or something like that, and you're trying to repair it and take it, it's probably going to get killed a lot of times trying to do shenanigans like that. That might be good to have 10-year LTI on such a ship with warranties and such, right? And that's a cheap ship right now. You don't got to go breaking out a crazy amount of money in your wallet. You can CCU to the dang thing. And you don't even have to CCU. You can just get a CCU hold where you purchase the CCU, but don't apply it until you see what the Crucible's like. It's a great example of a ship. That's what I'm doing with my endeavors, right? So just a thought. Sorry. Oh, I made this long video. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts on IAE, some of the ins and outs of it. I am an original player, backer, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, I've been through a lot of these events. I can remember having to go out and buy 32 gigs of RAM so I could get onto the first show floor in Loreville, because as soon as I went on the elevator to go down to it, it blew, you know, it basically CTD'd my computer every single time. You know, I've been around these a long time. I know what hype feels like. Enjoy it, but at the same time, use some perspective, use some restraint, talk with your buddies, workmates, etc., and think about what you actually need, what you all need to make sure you have a good time in the now, near term, long term. That'll do it for now. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, i.e. consider doing so, I should say. And thank you again to my long-term subscribers for sticking around. I greatly appreciate you. That's about all I got for this, and happy IAE.